Okay, so one of the most important things that you can do on LinkedIn is learning to tell great stories. Great stories are what help your content go viral, get seen, get tons of interactions. And so I never really create a post with the intention of it, quote unquote, going viral. I create a post to share a great story. And when I share a great story, the likelihood that it goes viral or gets a 500,000 views or 1 million views is greatly increased. So if you read the body of this lesson, you'll see that there are 5 traits that to me indicate that my story is more likely to go viral. And it's that they're inspirational. So inspirational, motivational posts do really well. They're believable. So you can tell that that thing really happened, that it's not some made up story. They're authentic. So little vulnerable, sharing something that most people might not share helps it feel really authentic. They're relatable. So stories that are relatable means they resonate with people, and people can feel those things deep inside, and so they're likely to read through the entire post, comment on it, interact with it. And they're polarizing. So what polarizing means is um, right in the middle between crazy. You never want to post things that are crazy. That's not what you want to do. And middle of the road, boring, vanilla content. If you can move your content in between middle of the road, boring, and crazy, that's where polarizing exists. And polarizing is meant to drive people to have a strong opinion. So oftentimes when you read my posts, you'll see that 70% of people really like it, find it really motivating and inspiring, and 30% of people hate it. And that's okay, because my posts are generally meant to be polarizing and inspiring, authentic, and relatable. So when I go to create a story, there are sort of 3 different parts. I gave you the 5 traits, but there are 3 different parts of that story. The first part is the hook. The second part is the format. And the third part is the feel. So we're going to start with the hook. So as you can see on the screen here, I've got a bunch of my posts loaded up. And the hook is the last line a reader sees before they have to click see more. And if they click see more, you know they're going to go through the post. You know they're going to interact with it. You know they're going to comment on it. So the hook line has to be really enticing, really compelling. You want them to click see more. So if you go through my posts, you'll notice my hook lines. When I ask why, trailing off. Try this instead. If you want to see, I wrote, who here has $100 getting ready to spend it? Brunch, clothes, Amazon, try this instead. Well, in order to see what I suggest, you got to click see more. When it comes to being a sales leader, there are lots of misconceptions. The biggest, question mark? Well, in order to figure out what the biggest is, you have to click see more. If you continue to scroll down, want to build a successful company, want to crush your hiring, here's my step-by-step process. Got to click see more to see it. Let me explain. Got to click see more to see my explanation. You get the gist. Now, what people may not know is where that hook line cuts off. So on LinkedIn, when you write a text-based post, meaning there's only text, you get 5 lines. So here's the first line: want to build a successful company, you must hire well. Here's the second line, it's space. Third line, want to crush your hiring. Fourth line is space. In the 5th line is the hook line. So you got to be careful, because if your lines are too long, they're going to run to the next line. So your 5th actual line will be hidden. So I like to do 3 short sentences to start with 1 line of space in between. So you get on your 5th line right here, you get your hook line. And your hook line has to be compelling, a reason to click see more. Now, if you do a video or a picture post, you're going to see you get significantly less space up top. So it looks like here, the 3rd line was actually the hook line. So I actually prioritized the 3rd line in this post. Whoa, big win for the crew over at Patient Pop. Did you see it? You got to click see more to see what I'm referencing, but this time it's on the 3rd line instead of on the 5th line. So you have to really make sure that your hook line is in the right spot to get people to click see more. So that's the hook. The format is what I call the white space and wave format. And it's a psychology trick that means people are more likely to digest it and read it through is if you put it in this white space and wave. So most people tease me because there's a space in between each one of my lines, and that's my white space format, because the brain is much more likely to read through something when there's spaces, because it looks easier and simpler to read versus really long paragraphs that it looks too complicated and you don't want to read it. So I put a lot of white space. You'll notice on this other example, which I'll share here, white space in between each line. And the wave actually refers to the sentence length. So my sentence lengths are like waves. So if you'll notice, it gets longer and then shorter and then longer and then back down, short, 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 gets back out to long, back to short, back to long, kind of like a wave. Those are the way that I write sentences. You can see it in this post as well. Starts long, gets shorter, grows back out, grows back down, back out, back down, just like a wave. So every one of my posts is white space and wave, because from a psychology perspective, more people will read it and more people will read it to the conclusion. So it's really important. So remember, make your story inspirational, believable, authentic, relatable, and polarizing. Get your hook on the right line so that people click see more. Use the white space and wave format. So there's hook, format, and the last one is feel. So feel number 1 is what we talked about, which is polarizing. Make sure it's not vanilla and boring. Make sure it's not crazy. You don't want to be writing crazy content. Make sure it's polarizing enough where you feel like 60 or 70% of the audience would agree and 30 or 40% of the audience would disagree. Because the people that agree with you are going to be your tribe, right? And they're going to think the people that disagree with you, they're wrong because you're all together as part of your tribe. That's the idea, right? And feel number 2, if you don't want to write something polarizing, is your authentic, truthful story of overcoming adversity. Like I've told you in the modules and lessons before, mine is at age 28, I had already been fired 3 times. I had never hit a quota for the first 6 years of my career. That story is so relatable and so authentic, and people can feel it because they're struggling too. And so when I post about that story, it resonates. People really, really enjoy it. So, overcoming adversity and telling your personal story is another really great one. And what I would share is that telling great stories is hard. The first time you go to tell a story, you're likely going to fail, but just keep at it. Writing every day and telling stories every day is what helps you get better at it. So don't tell your best, most authentic personal story the first time you go to write a story. Like, wait until you're really good. I waited a really long time to tell my personal story on LinkedIn because I wanted to get better at writing so that when I released my story, it would resonate and I knew it would do well. When I told my personal story, it has 1.246 million views, 14,380 interactions, and 840 comments. It is still to this day my most popular post, but I didn't write that story until after I had been writing stories for a year. So to recap, inspirational, believable, authentic, relatable, and polarizing. You want hook, format, and feel. The hook is making sure your hook line is on the 5th line for text-based posts and the 3rd line for image-based posts. Sometimes I think the hook line falls on the 4th line on image or video. You just have to sort of practice and test it out so you're comfortable with it. The format, white space and wave. Keep plenty of white space there so people can easily read it. Sentences should go shorter to longer and then back down to shorter and then back down to longer. The brain naturally follows that white space and wave pattern. And then make sure the 2 different feels is either 1, polarizing, or 2, authentic and personal story of overcoming adversity. All those notes are in the body of this lesson. This is the most important lesson. I highly recommend you read books on storytelling. I like Josh Fechter's Copywriting Bible. There's a lot of great books and blog articles out there to tell you how to tell great stories. So work hard, write frequently, and best of luck at telling great stories. See you in the next lesson.